Hello again, Gills fans. Welcome back to the latest episode of Gills in the Blood TV. It is that time of the week again where we start looking forward to the weekend. It is match preview showtime, and this Saturday, Gills travel up to the Midlands to take on former midfielder Michael Flynn's Walsall team, a side at the moment that are currently going through something of a problem in terms of goal scoring and winning games. We've all been there as Gills fans, so some sympathy, but of course we'll be wanting 3 points to bring back down the motorway come 5 p.m. Saturday afternoon. I'm pleased to say that I am joined by Sadler's fan and fellow YouTuber Seb Taylor for today's episode. You can find him on Twitter at Seb Taylor WFC, but I will put his Twitter handle along with his YouTube channel in the description at the bottom of the video. So go and check him out, drop him a sub, follow him on Twitter if you want to find out what's going on from the Walsall side of things in the build-up and after the game on Saturday. Seb, thank you for joining me for this preview show. Yeah, it's not been great for the Saddlers at the moment. We'll have a look at current form in terms of both teams. So the last six, 4 draws, 2 defeats.
Yeah.
Walsall overall. Gills in that time have won 3, drawn 2 and lost only 1. So it's 11 points from 18. The staggering turnaround since the takeover continues for Neil Harris's men, 11 points from the last half dozen. And if we break it down further to home and away, it's still not pretty reading, unfortunately, for Walsall. It's slightly better. It's 5 draws and a single defeat on their own patch. So hard to beat, but struggling to get games over the line, which comes when you're not scoring loads. Gills been a lot better on the road recently. Last 2 have been goalless draws, but before that there was a pair of wins, another draw. And again, it's only 1 defeat. So 9 points from 18 on the road. You played Tuesday evening, didn't you, Seb? Another goalless draw, home to Swindon. A side that are pretty much around you in the table at the moment. What did you make of the game?
I thought a point was probably a fair result. I thought, again, defensively we were solid. Swindon really didn't create many chances, but it's just up the other end of the pitch at the moment. We're not creating enough chances. And when the chances are falling, we're not taking them. I mean, Matty Stevens had one last night. He should have scored it. Like, straight from the second half, he should have buried it. And it's a different game then. But yeah, I think since we've lost on Danny Johnson, who went back to Mansfield, we haven't got that clinical edge in front of goal at the moment.
I've written his name down, so we'll talk about him in more detail in a couple of seconds as well. But yeah, just another couple of stats for both sides I wrote down for Walsall again. Sorry if you're a Saddlers fan. I know it's not great to keep being told this, but it's no win since New Year's Day.
Yeah.
And you've only scored more than once in a game in the last 12, and that was a 3-3 draw against Harrogate, and there's been 7 blanks in that period of time as well. So goal scoring really is an issue. We were there start of the season. I mean, you know how bad our problems were. It was documented all over social media. We scored 6 goals in our first 23 games of the season. So it's a pain that I feel on a much bigger scale we had. Luckily, we've managed to turn it around with a little bit of investment with the takeover. And essentially just better players. We're averaging 2 points per game in that same period, which is 24 from the last 12 games, which is promotion form, essentially. We've won 7, we've drawn 3, and we've only lost twice. It's a good Mansfield and a good Bradford side. Netted 16 in that time, kept 7 clean sheets. So everything points to it being a low-scoring game, I think, at the weekend. So if you've mentioned Danny Johnson, though, so I want to talk about him a little more. It is a name that I wrote down. Obviously, he scored 30. He had 15 in 30 games in all competitions prior to being recalled by Nigel Clough. 12 in the league at the time, and he was absolutely flying. There was talk of playoffs, and a real promotion push, or at least a push into them top 7 spaces. I had a look at your stats. And I don't like using this term because your next 2 highest scorers now in the league are Tom Knowles and Isaac Hutchinson have only got 4 each. And then I don't think anyone's got more than 2. So that's where the problem is. And you've already made that very clear. Yeah. Your performances are making that very clear as well. The term that I'm on about is one-man team, because I'm not saying you are a one-man team, but I'd imagine from the outside looking in, people are going to go, well, now Danny Johnson's not there. They're a lot easier to play against.
I can see that. We were very dependent on Danny Johnson for goals. Like you said, 15 goals in 30 games. So we're very dependent. I think Michael Flynn has said it numerous times. We've got to be getting more goals from midfield. Like you said, Tom Knowles 4 and Isaac Hutchinson. It's not brilliant. So, yeah, we need more goals chipping in from midfield. But we also lost Liam Bennett in January too, who was on loan from Cambridge. right wing back. He was superb. He was creating many chances for Danny Johnson too. So to take them two out of the team, I think we've been found out really, which is a bit disappointing because I generally thought we played Doncaster in December time. We beat them 2-0. And I came away from that game. I thought we were guaranteed for playoffs. We looked strong defensively and we took our chances in that game. But it took a turn for the worse. So I think we're going to finish, we might be lucky just to finish mid-table at the moment, which is a bit disappointing.
Yeah, I was looking at the league table and it's staggering just to see the fall off from yourselves. And again, the turnaround from a Gills point of view. But I think if 2 seconds, I'm just getting the load table up now. Yeah, you're currently on 45 points. We're on 38. It's mental to think that if we come to your place and win at the weekend, we're only 4 points behind you. When 6 weeks ago we were getting relegated and you were being talked about in terms of a top 7 club. It's weird. It's a very strange. It was a new division for me, obviously, and a lot of research had to go into it at the start of the season, having spent a decade in League One before the relegation. And I must admit, I've got teams massively wrong this season. I've had Barrow to get relegated.
Yeah, I think most teams did, to be fair.
I had us to be a lot higher. I had Carlisle bottom portion of the table. I don't think I had Leighton Orient anywhere near top. I think I had them sort of 10th, 11th. It's a strange league, and it's a very difficult league to get used to as well. And I think, and I don't mean this with any disrespect to any of the sides in it, but I think someone like Forest Green and Swindon last season are almost like the anomaly. You don't get many teams that are going to play free-flowing football, possession-based football. I think most of the teams like to get it into their front players fairly quickly and play from there. Is that a fair assumption of what League Two is about?
Forest Green they were incredible last year. I know they're struggling in League One, but they're probably one of the best League Two sides I've seen. Obviously, in the 3 or 4 seasons of Walsall have been in League Two, they were something different.
Yeah, they obviously, like you say, they've been found out a little bit in League One. Excuse me, unfortunately, and you do need to find different ways to play in that division again because Forest Green are a very small fish in a massive pond now. League One's becoming. I know they talk of Championship becoming the second Premier League, but there's a case I think to be made that League One is essentially becoming almost like a drop off for Championship sides. When you look at the teams that have been in there in recent seasons, like Sunderland, Ipswich, Portsmouth, Charlton. They're all Premier League teams in terms of fan base and stadium and that type of thing. But yeah, League Two is obviously what we need to talk about. Forest Green, that links me in quite nicely to the next question I've got for you. And that is, there's a couple of people that you got in from Forest Green during the transfer window after losing Danny Johnson. One was Matt Stevens. You mentioned he missed a good chance Tuesday evening. He's only got 1 in 9 since arriving on loan. And the other one, who's obviously played under Michael Flynn before and was very successful at Newport, is Jamil Matt. Again, it's not worked for Jamil Matt yet, has it? Unfortunately, no goals in half a dozen appearances. Obviously, I'm not saying you've got to write them off because it's a very small portion of the season and they're getting used to a new team. But it must be doubly frustrating, like you've said. You came out of that game in December against Doncaster and thinking we're nailed on here to have a right go at the top end of the table.
Yeah.
So now go completely the other way. So not only do you get a kick in the stomach of losing your best player and the person that's feeding him in terms of your right wing back being recalled.
Yeah.
You then bring in 2 players to try and negate that, and it's just not working out for one reason or another. It must be really frustrating for a fan base.
When I looked at bringing in Matty Stevens and Jamil Matt, I think on paper that would have been more than enough to replace Danny Johnson. But it just hasn't worked out. I think he's not up to full fitness at the moment. Jamil Matt, he's injured too, so it just hasn't worked out them front two. I mean, I think they scored 40 plus goals between them last season, and obviously with Forest Green winning the league, so it's really frustrating at the moment. And yeah, I have to mention it again. Matty Stevens should have buried that chance yesterday. If, like I said, if he'd have scored, that would have been a different game. But I mean, yeah, they're just not offering enough up front too. I mean, Matt Stevens, you can tell he's not match sharpness at the moment. It's really frustrating time for Walsall, but just got to keep sticking at it, like Michael Flynn says, because I think it will come good eventually for the Saddlers, definitely.
Michael Flynn's got an affiliation with us as well. He played for us in the mid 2000s, I think, when we was in League One. I think was captain for a while. Always a scorer of good goals rather than being a regular goal scorer. I remember Flinny, and he's a top bloke as well. I interviewed him for my channel.
Yeah.
Just after he'd kept Newport up in that ridiculous Great Escape a few seasons ago, and his stock has generally kept rising since then. Is he still the right man amongst the fan base, or is there obviously? I'm sure there must be some murmurings because of the fact that the form's fallen off the edge of a cliff. But I was looking at your results in general, Seb, and is it fair to say that you are a consistently inconsistent team? Because I had your results up, looking at one of the apps on, I think it was Soccer Base, the website, and you've had runs like this already this season. I think there was a period at the beginning of the season you went 12 without a win.
Yeah.
And then there's other periods where you win like 8 out of 9 and look like the best team in the division. That must be frustrating. But yeah, the big question, are the fan base still behind Michael Flynn generally?
I think generally, yeah, I've seen a few fans, questioning him, probably calling for his head soon, but I think he's still the right man for the job, 100%. I think he's brought some good moments back to Walsall. He's took us on a good FA Cup run. We played Leicester in the 4th round. We've been decent in the league. I mean, we've been hard to beat. Up until Danny Johnson left, we looked like a decent force in the league. But yeah, I think he's still the right man for the job. Going into next season, we've got to give him at least 1 or 2 more transfer windows because it was a massive rebuild. I think he brought 19 players in the summer, so it's not going to just happen overnight. Rome wasn't built in a day, so we've just got to keep building, build on it. Hopefully, I think a few of the players do deserve contracts, some of them don't. So we'll hopefully see some quality players coming in the summer and then push on from next season because I think this season is over. I did try and grab onto some hope that we might get into the playoffs, but I think after that Barrow game when we lost 1-0, I think that was when it was over. I think we're about 12 points off it. So if we just get as many wins as possible until the end of the season, I think that'll do the squad good for morale, and then hopefully, Michael Flynn can build a right side going into next season, hopefully.
That's it, because the thing is, you can't legislate for the parent club recalling your best player. That's completely out of Flynn's hands. He can't coach that. That's been taken away from him out of his control by another club, essentially. So it does make it difficult. It'd be interesting to see how you do go next season and what approach you take in terms of transfers, because I'm always of the persuasion that you want. I get that clubs like Gillingham, Walsall, anyone in League One, League Two has to take advantage of the loan market because you can't go and spend loads of money. But yeah, I just think the more players you can have that are your players is beneficial, because then you don't have a Danny Johnson type situation occurring midway through a season, and it completely changes the complexion of your whole campaign. But to the immediate here and now, which is Saturday afternoon, we're recording this on a Wednesday, so there's been no press conferences or anything yet for either side. I assume Walsall have got a day off, having played on Tuesday night, and Gills do have Wednesdays off as a rule, so there's not going to be anything in terms of confirmed team news. But just looking at what you've seen with the naked eye and whether there was any injuries or suspensions coming out of Tuesday night's game, what do you think the setup and the personnel will be from Flinty come 3 o'clock on Saturday afternoon, Seb?
It's a hard one to call because he's been playing 5 back or 3 back most of the season, but we changed it yesterday to more like a 4-4-2, 4-5-1. I know Hayden White won't be playing, I don't think, because I think he's got 2-game suspension with the yellow card rule, so I don't think he'll be in the team. I think he might shape up to play something like Evans in goal. I think maybe a back 4, Joe Riley, Donovan Daniels, Manny Month, and Liam Gordon. I think that'd be the back 4, and then we might play how you look at it, maybe 3 midfield of Jacob Maddox, Brandon Comley, and Liam Kinsella. And then I could see Isaac Hutchinson in front of them, and then Tom Knowles, and I think Connor Wilson might come back in for this game. I think Matty Stevens,
another ex-Gills player.
Yeah.
He's just come back off a long-term injury again, isn't he?
Yeah, he has. He had an ACL injury towards the end of last season, so he's coming back up to match fitness. He actually looked pretty decent when he came on last night. So I think Connor Wilson will play alongside Tom Knowles. Probably like a 4-3-1-2, however you want to look at it, 4-4-2.
Sounds similar to us. We played a back 3 against Stockport, and everyone sort of went, whoa. Like, he made 4 changes, Neil Harris, and took out the captain. because the club captain's not involved at the moment because he's just not good enough anymore, unfortunately. So Sean Williams has generally been the skipper, but he was taken out and rested. And like I say, everyone sort of raised their eyebrows, and we went up there and got a brilliant point. But then he went back to the 4-4-2 Saturday at home to Tranmere, and we were spot on, to be fair, aside from probably 15 minutes at the beginning where the game just didn't settle down. We controlled the game for the main part of it after that, and Tranmere, again, similar to yourselves, for a team that I think everyone was talking about as playoff candidates before Christmas, they were woeful. Like, and there's no disrespect to Tranmere, they offered absolutely nothing. It was the most comfortable second half I've watched Gills play in a long time, and 2-0 flattered them. We missed 2 sitters as well. So I think Neil will probably go with a back 4 as well. So I think, barring injury, it'd be Glenn Morris in goal, Shay Alexander, Maxima, Connor Masterson, and David Tatonda will be that back 4. I know there is talk that Robbie McKenzie might be fit for the squad, but I certainly wouldn't put him back in after 3 weeks out.
Yeah,
similar to how you set up. Neil's quite clever. He plays it. We can almost set it up as a diamond, like a 4-3-1-2, or but then what we do is the 2 in midfield spring wide to stretch the game when we're in possession to make it a flatter 4-4-2. So I think it would be, if I was picking it anyway, I'd go Sean Williams and Timmy Dieng in the middle because they were superb at the weekend. Alex McDonald continues. He was absolutely first class as well. I'd replace George Lapsley with Dom Jeffries, who I think plays that wide left role better. Just gives us more legs. And it's mental to be sitting here, Seb, and saying that we can afford to leave George Lapsley out of our 11 after how bad we were first start of the season. But it's just, I just don't think we're playing the right system for George Lapsley at the moment. He's a number 10. He wants to play in between the lines, and I think needs must at the moment to get us to that safety point. So for me, Jeffries plays, and I think the front 2, having just heard who your centre-backs are, absolute monsters, Month and Daniels, big lumps. I'd go with, I'd take Tom Nichols out this week. Again, another player that we're in a position we can leave out, which is crazy. And I'd go with Ollie Hawkins and Aidan O'Brien, who are bigger. So that'd be my 11. Final question, obviously, before I let you go and enjoy the rest of your day, is the dreaded score prediction. What do you think the final score will be come around 5 o'clock Saturday afternoon?
I mean, if you're going off form, it'll probably be another draw, but we just need a win. Like you said earlier, we haven't won in the league since New Year's Day. And, it's just so frustrating as fans at the moment. We've been, like you said before, we've been on similar runs like this in the season. With 12 games without a win. So I think off form, I'll probably go for another draw. I think Gillingham are a solid side now, brought some good players in January, likes of, Timothy Dieng, George Lapsley, some good players in there. So I'll go with a Walsall 1, Gillingham 1. Yeah, I'll go with a draw. But hopefully a 1-0. I'll just take a win at the moment.
I've gone similar. I've written down 2 scores. I've put head says 1-1.
Yeah.
My heart says we might pinch it 2-1. I'm not sure what our record's like up there in recent years, obviously, because we've been slightly different in terms of divisions for a while. I remember both teams being really good 2015-16. And
yeah, that was it.
Both threatened to get promoted. Yeah, that was the game we were 2-0 up, weren't we? And then our season fell off an edge of a cliff after Christmas, unfortunately. We ended up 9th, which was an absolute travesty, having been in the playoffs up until game 43. We were top at Christmas, and the wheels fell off. And I remember both sides were just really good sides. I think we had like the Bradley Dacks, John Egan's. You had, I think, Tom Bradshaw.
Rico Henry.
I think you had Rico Henry. Who's the lad that went to West Brom? Romain Sawyers.
Romain Sawyers, yeah.
Yeah, both really good sides. Who was your manager then? Was it still Dean Smith?
It was Dean Smith, but he left halfway through the season. He went to Brentford, and then we brought in O'Driscoll. That didn't work out, so the physio became manager John Whitney till the end of the season. He got us into 3rd, then the playoffs. I don't want to speak about that really. Still getting nightmares from it really.
We didn't even end up it. Like I say, we was top at Christmas. I think until game 43, we was in the top 6, and 9th we finished was the lowest position of the entire season, which was absolutely heartbreaking. But it's gone now.
Yeah.
We're both struggling to get out or stay in League 2. Seb, it's been a real pleasure, mate. Thank you very much.
Cheers for having me on. Cheers.
No problem at all. Gills fans and Walsall fans, if you are watching and still going now, then thank you very much. Please drop a like and a subscribe for us. It'd be greatly appreciated. Like I say, these channels are nothing, myself and Seb's, they're nothing without fans interacting and sharing and talking about the content and all that type of thing. These videos, as I always tell you now, are in association with Art of Football. So if you're looking for any retro or vintage T-shirts, sweatshirts, hoodies, prints, bucket hats, classic football shirts, they've got it all. Go and check them out. The link to their website is in the description at the bottom of the video. As always, I've got a car load coming up at the weekend to the Bescott Stadium. I'm not calling it by its new horrible sponsored name. It will always be the Bescott Stadium. I've got myself, little Ava's coming for her second away day of the season at 8 years old. Boz, Stocky, Rachel, Mandy and Paige from her game too. So a carload coming up. I think we sold about 350 tickets as of yesterday afternoon. So fingers crossed we can get up that to around 450 and 500. So there will be a match day live from the Midlands on Saturday afternoon. Until then, enjoy the rest of your week and up the Gills.